So last night I just watched Nimona, which just came out on Netflix, and it was an excellent allegory to represent queerness, and I'll probably be making a whole separate video about it. But after I finished watching it, I was noting how many LGBTQ plus cast members there were in the film, and that led me down the rabbit hole about the queerness of Chloe Grace Moretz, who voices the titular character in this movie. And what I found must be shared. First thing you'll find if you Google Chloe Grace Moretz queer is a bunch of articles about this movie she did a few years ago called The Miseducation of Cameron Post, where she played a teenage girl who was sent to gay conversion therapy. Now, it didn't take long of me perusing the internet to see that Chloe has been very open about her support and her allyship with the LGBTQ plus community throughout her career. She regularly speaks out in support of queer people, she brings attention to supportive causes, and she frequently stars in queer roles. She also literally dated a woman. But as every single news publication out there will consistently harp on, she also has never explicitly said the words, "I'm queer." Here is what she has said though. Moretz has also told reporters that she shouldn't have to come out. It shouldn't be a question. Quote, "I really feel that it should be up to the person. Whatever you feel you need to do to be your truest self. Express yourself." She also said, "I love being able to flip the script and have people find little moments within projects that may surprise them. That, to me, is the beauty of art, to have the ability and freedom to blur lines and to express each character in different facets so as to show the audiences that there are so many different aspects to all of us." A win for queer interpretation. She also said about The Miseducation of Cameron Post that it is a queer movie told by queer people. Our director is bisexual and everyone in the movie is on the queer spectrum. It's told by the community for the community. It's through our lens. She also said gay people are the leads instead of straight people, which is why she suspects the movie didn't get as much attention as it deserved. And then here's the real kicker. Attention everyone who loves to use "don't speculate on people's sexuality." I'm talking to you. A recent article on queer erasure in cinema name-checked Cameron Post as an example of a straight actor playing a gay lead role. "Oh, really?" says Moretz, her tone tinged with irritation. "Well, I think what's important is don't assume anyone's sexuality," she says. "I mean across the board, don't assume." "I think it comes down to the line that's in the movie," she continues. In the movie, she says, "I don't see myself as a homosexual. I don't see myself as anything." Why don't we let people be who they want to be? I love that she says this as a response to someone assuming that she's straight, because that's the problem. Straightness being the default. If someone doesn't come out and say, "I'm straight," them not speaking about their sexuality doesn't mean that they're straight. I'm gonna make a part 2 because I have more thoughts and a thought experiment for y'all. Hello everyone, this is part 2 of me talking about Chloe Grace Moretz and how she's been normalizing queerness in a way that I think is so beautiful. If you're just seeing this first and you haven't seen part 1, make sure you do that first because there's a lot more context there. To sum up my thoughts on everything I said in the first part, I think it's amazing that Chloe doesn't want to feel the need to label herself, especially as a famous person who has a huge spotlight on her and her personal life. She has also said, "It is always difficult in the public eye threading the needle between professional and personal. I love anonymity in life. It is something that I truly cherish. I have my platform and, as I see it, the ability to spread love and change through my personal perspective and views. I try to do this in a way that is organic and natural to me." She admits that social media has played a huge role in her ability to do that. "I can speak directly to my fans in my own words and have a common dialogue. I find my speaking with them through social media to be a place where we can discuss what is most important to us." I loved reading that about speaking directly to fans with a common dialogue because to me that's what the queer community is all about. We can speak to each other with words that we know what they mean without having to speak in this explicit othering languages that heteronormativity created to create division between queer people and non-queer people. And I really had a lot to say about this because I absolutely love this trend of younger people normalizing queerness and refusing to have to come out and other themselves in order to be seen. People are catching on. The media might not be catching on quick enough, but we are catching on and we are spreading this message. If you're watching this and you're not queer, I want to offer a little thought experiment to you. Imagine you're a famous person and you don't identify as heterosexual, okay? You have, as I see it, 2 options. The first one is to publicly come out, make a spectacle out of it, have it be made into a spectacle that kind of snowballs outside of your control. And this will invite hateful comments from people who never would have picked up on the fact that you're queer unless you explicitly said so. Bigots will come out of the woodwork, they will trash you, and even if your career doesn't suffer as a result, there's a huge spotlight and a ton of eyes on something that you don't necessarily need to share with the entire world. The second option is just to live your life authentically, to be candid about things that you experience as a queer person. If it comes up in a conversation with someone who seems like a safe person, you're probably going to be more explicit about it. But should you as a celebrity have to be explicit about your queerness to the entire world, knowing that that's going to invite so much unnecessary hatred? No. And not doing that normalizes queerness. I actually have one more thing I want to say about this, so part 3 in the comments. Hi y'all, this is part 3 and my final part of discussing celebrity culture and normalizing queerness, especially through the lens of Chloe Grace Moretz and how she has done an excellent job of doing this exact thing. Go watch the first 2 parts if you haven't seen them. One of the highlights, IMO, was when Chloe basically used the argument of not speculating on people's sexuality in a way that took shots at heteronormativity rather than aiding heteronormativity, which is how that argument is usually used. This is something that I am every day on this app begging straight people to understand, which is that when someone declines to comment on their sexuality or declines to label their sexuality or says something like it doesn't matter to them, that is not the same thing as someone saying, I am straight or I am heterosexual. And when you conflate those two things, when you assume that if they decline to identify their sexuality or label their sexuality, that means they're straight, you are perpetuating toxic heteronormativity. Straightness is not the default. Queerness exists for many people as a fluid, evolving aspect of our identity that is difficult to pin down, box in, or categorize with one simple label. I'm noticing this trend in the queer community, and especially amongst young queer people, of wanting to move away from the restrictiveness of labels and wanting to move past that into a future where queerness is normalized, where labels aren't necessary, and where people don't have to come out in order to be seen as queer. Now, I'm by no means saying that I don't think labels are necessary, and I don't think we're at that point yet, but I see this shift in culture happening, and it brings me a lot of joy and hope for the future. This is something that I need straight people to get with the program on, okay? Because in order for this cultural shift to happen, it has to go beyond just queer people talking about queerness in a way that normalizes queerness. I've talked about this book a lot on my page, All the Things She Said by Daisy Jones, and I'm going to finish off this series by talking about it again. Toward the end of the book, the author talks about Grace Jones and how fluidity is something that she has spoken about for decades. She's discussing her gender presentation, kind of fluidly moving between masculine and feminine, and the interviewer butts in, hungry for a scoop. Does that carry through to your sexual preference? She says, well, that depends. Do you find women attractive? He digs. This goes on for a while, and he keeps digging and says, does that make you bisexual? She says, it doesn't make me anything. It's ridiculous trying to categorize people's feelings or saying, what does one prefer? There's no comparison. You can't just say one's better than the other or one's worse than the other. I prefer one to the other. It's just do what you feel when you feel like it, if you feel like it. I think that the younger generations are doing just that, and that means we are on the path to liberation.